Thank you. Right, so welcome to all the council members and members of the public that are watching via live stream, and to Mrs. Bradley that's just come in the door. Welcome. And I'll hand straight over to Councillor Casson, the county.
Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia makina kina ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai, I hei aki anei te atakura, hei tio, hei hoka, hei hauhu, te hei maurua.
Thank you. Apologies. We have Francois' apology. Do we have an apology from anybody else? No, it's no councillors, Mr. Anyway. So can I have somebody please move and second resolve that the apology from Francois be received and accepted? Thank you, Councillor Neal, Councillor Burden. Right, a declaration of interest register. It's been circulated via Teams. Everybody, please make sure you stay current with that. Review it pre-meeting times. Urgent items on the agenda, we have none at this stage, or we have none. So with that, we will move on to the minutes of the previous meetings, which were circulated via Teams. So can I have a mover and a seconder, please, on the acceptance as a true and accurate record on the Ordinary Council meeting from 23rd of February? Councillor Neal, Councillor Gilliatt, and we resolved that the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on 23rd of February 23 to be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting, and I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed meeting minutes of that date. Number 6 on the run sheet is the action list, and we'll hand over to Executive to take us through the action list thus far.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors. Hope you can hear me okay. I'll just run through the action list as pertaining to the report. Only 4 actions at the moment. Paki Waitara building, council building, business case. That is still in our consultants working through the various mechanisms for doing the framework for evaluating those buildings. We are still in discussions with Heritage New Zealand regarding government house. I'll ask the CEO who I talked to last week to provide options for council to make assessments, including the option of full commercial risk versus the option of a partnership arrangement. So working on those options, and we can proceed with those into the evaluation as well as part of our ongoing assessments. Just to highlight, councillors, we do have issues with this building and the building road in terms of water integrity. We haven't done any work on this building for some time, obviously holding off as long as we can to ensure that we have to do the right thing. But I have spoken my team to go forward with some work for the roof. The one on the roof is finished over the time, so we're going to obviously do that piece of work, which doesn't obviously add value to the building, but needs to be done. In terms of cross the road, we had some more damage the last week. Thank you, Councillor Kirsten, for highlighting that. We had some guttering get put off. So the state of the guttering is very, very poor and existing in some parts. So I've asked Scott's team to take a look at what we can do in terms of roof and skyline. That will be proceeding in the near future. The racecourse development, there's a council report today. Cover everything on that space. Okarito Dark Sky Community, it's very good working with the group, a number of days and chats with both the TTP planning team and also the group at Okarito. I believe we've got a way forward, which will maybe put a late question from the council to the planning committee for a late adoption, which will basically help the zoning. if we delay, we don't do it now, and there's at least a 10-year wait
until the next plan
the
is
zoning
up for
review.
to
For
do
private plan change, Spectrum is
have it, unfortunately. So
we
we
can see if we can add it on to an
that
additional
will,
submission that's made from another party. I can't guarantee that it'll be
support, that's
kind of
tap.
the committee is supportive of that.
And-
Responsible camping project, council requested an update in terms of the details of what our responsible camping process is at the moment. There's a report in Teams that I've provided. I'll also provide an update report
As part
of my
of
CV
the
update.
update next month as well.
Need to take any questions on any of those subject matters.
Matters, Your Worship.
Through the Chair, Paki Waitara, can we have some sort of timeframes on getting this evaluation completed?
Let's bear in mind all three buildings are linked to the same conversation. So it will take a little bit longer. There's probably another round of workshops with council prior to any further formal first case being developed. So we don't have a date at this stage
When we see, but the board hearing is what my target will be.
Through the Chair, line item 3 around the Ocarito Dark Sky piece, would council consider writing a letter to formally sort of show our support behind them for that?
We asked Your Worship.
Just,
So I've also asked the community to get a round of petitions and also a letter of support.
support from the local community here as well.
Yeah, support to their
Our team will
Lead that process.
on their behalf.
and line item 4, the responsible camping. When the one comes online down at Paringa, I think it's probably worth us pushing out where those sites are. There seems to be a bit of confusion around tourism operators and the public, which probably doesn't help them being utilised as good as they could be.
So I know our contractors work with an agency,
These would be camp-
and a few others to actually move sites as
That work is ongoing.
Through the Chair, are they open yet, the toilets? And I don't know.
I have to confirm
There's
toilets in Paringa blew up, not open.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Much for that. Sorry. Can I please have a motion and a seconder and resolve that the updated action must be received and any updates noted accordingly or information sourced back to us accordingly? May the move and seconder please, Councillor Pearson, Councillor Bee, thank you very much. All in favour of that? Right, and from there we'll move on to presentations, and with that we have the future of the replica Foxmont aircraft. And we have Anne Bradley here with us today, who isn't accompanied by.
Well, I was just saying, Diane, did you manage to get hold of the others? Because our time has changed. So we're supposed to be
Previous year, right?
Yes. I was just going to say, can we give them that so they do know? Can we give them time to arrive? Because the Heritage Park is doing the main presentation. I'm just.
Yep, no, that's fine. If everybody's happy with that, we'll just, if you're happy to sit there and waiting.
Oh, I'm very happy.
Okay, thank you. So we will move from there down to staff reports, and move into those, please, Lynn. If you wouldn't mind, sorry, it's bringing that forward, but.
Good afternoon, Your Worship.
Good afternoon.
Through Your Worship, I present the February financial report. I'll take any questions, Your Worship, but I'll take it as read as well.
Any questions for Lindley?
Yeah.
On the front page?
It is page 30.
Is that page 30 on
Of the
the bottom of the
agenda,
screen
not
or of the
report.
sheets? Page 30 of the sheets.
Over 90 days debts, I've got in my head about $930,000 worth of debt that's outstanding over the 90 days from sundry debts, consents and rates. Is that the usual figure it sits at? I know that it's come down for sundry debtors and rates in the last year, but building consent debt's gone up. And trying to get the $1 million back from those that are in debt to us.
Sorry, how much are we considering for?
935,000 across building consents, sundry debtors, and then down to the rates debt of 820,000.
Okay.
No.
Building consents are a little more tricky because they are issued, but they are not actually paid until they decide to go ahead. I believe that's correct. Is that right? Building consents?
That is correct. So when an application comes in terms of the processing fees and the amount of inspections that may be required, they have to be paid at the time before someone can actually up the building consent. So while the invoices have been issued, they want to actually proceed with their building, they have to pay those fees before they can actually get consent. That system.
And then rates and sundry debtors are higher amounts. Obviously, both of those have come down in the last year, but are still
They have.
900,000 plus worth of.
Generally, a reasonably high amount in sundry debtors is grant funding. I potentially think this amount may be related to Westland Regional Council, one of the grants there that maybe some questions about.
Usually I think it's got to be.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's one debtor.
Sorry.
Cool. And rates, obviously, that's come down a couple 100,000, which is good in the last year, but is that a normal level? I guess, Leslie, through your time, is that a normal level? Is it $8,000 of rates high, or is that or indifferent?
Depends on when, you see, we only issue rates quarterly. So it depends on what period in those 3 months that we report here. So that will affect what is the debt, what isn't the debt. So some people pay it off by direct debit. So it's not, because of doing it quarterly, it's very difficult to actually get a true picture until you got the last quarter.
I'm just trying to find.
Okay.
If I can, it's probably more a question for Simon. Page 35, the actual report. Western Tourism Marketing Infrastructure, 75,000. The Hokitika insurance signs. Please get a contract. That was being contracted to repair. I thought after the last meeting we were going to have a discussion about whether we put signs in for Welcome to Westland instead of Hokitika Centric.
I'm just trying to find the line item.
It's down the bottom, last one.
So in terms of providing some direction, actually discussed with a designer to give us some concept before, so that we come to a table before it goes into that's correct.
And that 75,000 quarters, how many signs? 2.
The idea was 2, but there's also some work around our welcome entry sign as well, to Hokitika primarily. We don't actually have welcome Hokitika sign currently.
We don't even have Welcome to Westland. We need to think about that in that aspect. It's a lot of money for that, and we don't recognise the region, whereas all other regions do. So let's bring back the concepts, we can have that discussion
So I'll arrange a session in the near future.
Paul,
The sustainability report, the total revenue, 6.6% in the total expenditure of that period is up 7.3%. So notwithstanding timing of these external grants, we are confident that
just through your worship, there are grants that come from multiple different projects. So if we talk about grants, we have tourism infrastructure funding, which is on track. We have tourism, other projects that sit inside the grants for the cycle trail. So we have a couple of projects in there. Some of the tourism infrastructure funding projects have been requested extensions right now, mainly because of contractor availability. And we also have the Better Off funding, which is all on track as well. So there's nothing that I see as a red flag in terms of grant funding, non-payment of grants that were requested.
just in my time, I haven't seen the revenue is down substantially in the expenditure. But I realise there is time mentioned in the report with time certain grants. So that's really breaking lines.
Just see, Richard, I don't see any red flags, like I stated, in terms of external funding not coming through.
Yeah.
All the projects we've actually put a hand up. As we recall, the only one that we had in budget is the Care Square one, the third tool that the council has revised the design work.
Any further questions? Sorry.
Please, Worship. Just clarification. I've raised this before about the debt position. So I just see that the forecast debt now going into June is considerably less than last time. Is that a reflection of annual work?
Yes, it is. It's also a reflection of some of the project deferrals. So our loan funding will be based on what we actually can spend this year rather than what the forecast expenditure.
So, through your worship, so that 1.5 million above and beyond the budgeted expenditure that takes up to 21 million, what was that 1.5 million?
Sorry, which?
On page 22, the total expenditure, actual expenditure is 21 million. 7.35% more than the total budget of 19.59. Were there any particular items that?
No, we would only have, other than the information we have provided in the variance explanations,
Yeah.
we have to actually go back and have a look for whether to give you more detailed information.
Wanted some additional
I'm just wondering how $1.5 million above and beyond what was budgeted ended up spent.
I think it's more a timing rather than above and beyond.
Right.
That's more of a timing issue.
Okay.
somebody else had their hand up for a question. I thought, sorry. Not. So is there anything further for Lindley regarding the report, please? Nothing further? Thank you for the report, Lindley, because it is a very comprehensive one, and everybody's obviously starting to go over these things more comfortably as we've had the workshops through with comprehension of what they will relate to and when they start moving forward. So thank you for that. Can I please have a move or a second, please, so that we can draft the financial report for 28th February 23 be received? And Councillor Davidson. Thank you. Thanks, Lily, very much.
Thank
And still there, so we'll move on to the totaliser building. Yeah, we'll move on to that, so, you've got to report on that, and then see if it returns up after that.
Your Worship, the councillors, the report as read. This is a options assessment and guidance provided by council for outcomes at the totalisator building up at the racecourse. If you have any questions, I'm here and available.
Jane and I were spitballing ideas earlier before the meeting. Do we approach the local fire brigade in terms of a training opportunity for them, which would hopefully bring the $60,000 of cost down, or look to add value at least to the process?
No, not at this stage, because I need that directive first before I can approach any. No. I need to, process is you have to get the resource consent and then proceed with whatever options.
The building has asbestos in it, but the fire brigade won't go near it, it's asbestos in it.
Yes, the price is so expensive to remove them.
That's part of the issue.
Very interesting. I mean, I probably agree with that. I don't see the architectural merit to it. The context of the polarisation building really is lost in the racecourse. Therefore, I don't see that it's a great loss. I'm sure that Bob intended to be spinning about it because he thought to have it written. It's not a process for us, but I think it's really going to be lost in the racecourse. The context of the racecourse is spending money on a building that's crumbling and falling apart.
Yeah, it's a very valid comment, because it's the relationship it has with the overall racecourse site that gives it the relevance. So, and without that, it becomes a building on its own. It's a very valid comment.
The only merit that it had, in my view, were the old slides that used to have it shown. But they seem to have got rid of them years ago and put some painting across the front of it. So, other than that, I can't see what there is worth salvaging.
Through your worship, there has been a list of items identified by Heritage Hokitika and in the industrial park. Some of it, particularly the ribbons or the...
Yeah, McDougall machine.
They want to recover those and on the way options as well. So they have identified items that they would like to recover from the building, part of the process, and reuse in the livery design concept.
That's good, because they'll probably actually sort of recreate a use for them or restore them and place them with something else. So there's aspects of it that they want to salvage, and it's a good thing for the park and the history that stays.
For the chair, has it been identified where the asbestos is in the building at all?
There is some wall cladding asbestos in the new piece that it in the 60s. Not the whole part, the whole lot will go. It's totally manageable. Correct.
So how much asbestos is in there?
Oh, it's probably about 30 square metres of the wall cladding. That's it, over asbestos. Wall cladding.
I sort of think it might be an opportunity to remove that through your plan system, and then back on to your suggestion about the propaganda. Rest of it.
An option.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any further questions regarding processes in the Brookwood?
Once you give it a go ahead, how long will it take to approve it?
Well, it's quite a process, because I have to get the resource, and then we have to go through Heritage New Zealand because it's a listed building, and make sure that I need directive from the council to do those two processes. I would hope within 6 months we can get that completed.
I'll get all the permissions you need and then begin the process of action.
No. The odds aren't good.
Through your worship, could other buildings up there that should be considered at the same time that might need to be?
There's the old stables, there's the bleachers, the stadium itself. It's sort of a different process. I was focusing mainly on this one because it's cooling down, it's hazardous in the entrance. Wait for the actual plan of that.
Thank you, Earl. If there's no further questions for Earl, no further discussion at the table, everybody happy with that? You've all got in front of you the preferred option, which is option 1. Demolish the building and save specific items of interest for the Heritage Hokitika and the Heritage Industrial Park. Remediate the site for future area. The costings included in there. So what we are seeking as the purpose behind this report is a direction from council as to the next steps, and that is where the options come into it. So Earl's recommendation is option 1. So firstly, we want to have the council please move and second that we accept the report, and then that we accept the preferred option of option 1. Yes. Thank you. Councillor Phelps, thank you very much. And that is moved to second, and we resolve that the report we received, and that council confirmed that the demolition of the totaliser building is the preferred option and continue to liaise with Heritage, in particular Western Industrial Park, the removal of items of local interest within the building and remediate the site. Thank you for that. So the other side with that is there a time frame on that removal of property?
No, we'll work that in with the demolition, so we'll be removing the specific parts they wanted and delivering.
Thank you. And everybody happy with that, that motion? Thank you. Thank you all very much for that.
Thank you, Your Worship, councillors.
There's quite a bit of information there with that report, historical, so forth. So pity that the buildings in the state it's in. Hokitika Rating Group. Right, sorry, we're just discussing the report from Anne. Thank you, Simon, if you can give your report on the rating group.
Yeah, good afternoon, councillors, again, Your Worship. This is a report to reconfirm change in the terms of the joint agreement between West Coast Regional Council and District Council in regards to the rating group changes, incorporation of the Hokitika River into the new rating group. Reason for the primary reason for the change. There are other changes that have been included in the agreement. One of significance is the reduction of representation. Regional Council will have their chair and 2 other councillors. So it's requested that we also match that same number. Obviously, Bishop and 2 appointed councillors. Another significant change is also that we actually formally meet twice a year. There has been meetings were occurring ad hocly rather than in a formal process. So we've asked for at least 2 meetings a year. One meeting being around October, November, which would align with the annual planning process it needs anyway. We'll take the rest of the, also the other one is including EWE into the agreement as well. We'll take the rest of the report as read and we'll take any questions, Your Worship.
And the other thing was regarding the volume of meetings. It was down from 1 a year. We've changed that to be as also
as required.
As required, haven't we? So, which is a bonus because we will be looking at having one before we get to November. From this, as we get this formalised, we'll be calling for a meeting. So, any questions for Simon, please?
I guess a comment or a question.
I'm disappointed to have been removed from that committee, because I think it's good to have some continuity as well. However, so be it. I think it's absolutely vital to ensure that any wall that does go up is completed to best practice to avoid wasting dollars, and some of the meetings that we've had in the past, that hasn't always been looking in that direction, and also vital to ensure the consents are all completed or work is done, and it shouldn't be emergency works. So to those new team members going on to it, yeah, I hope you push those things on the committee. Thank you.
Your Worship, we are, I've discussed this as well. We're keen to ensure that full representation of council's opinions even though we only have 2 representations. So I'm working on behalf of the rest of the constables and the other rating areas as well. So we propose to have a pre-meeting internally prior to the committee meeting, just to make sure that we have our agenda items articulated before the agenda.
We've also got the concerned groups in the community that we're also using with trying to
just through the chair, just along with Jane, you know, 3.5 years working on that committee, and I was very comfortable with it, and we've did a lot of work towards protecting the town, and I'd just like to support the next 2 that come on, and we'll work alongside them. So. All the best.
Thank you for that, Tinker, and with that, I certainly want to pay recognition to you for your contribution and effort, because I know it's been a passion, it's been a focus, it's been a drive for you, and we respect that, and we really look forward to working closely with yourself and Jane as with the rest of the council, but you guys have got the knowledge to get through this different directions, a hell of a focus in front of us with this. We've got to ensure this work happens, and we certainly will be holding regional council to account on the aspect of what they do. Thank you, Jane and Tinker, for all your work over the previous term.
Sorry, Mr. Mullen, who councillors?
It should be on your report.
Patrick and I.
It should be on the report.
Summary 1.4.
The Subordinates Committee also be dealing with that matter issue, regional council,
Well, I dare say that will come into discussion.
Your Worship, there's a resource consent process that requires them to provide access ways. So, the previous council, they haven't got a solution at this stage for this present design. We just need to obviously make sure we tell them to supply access ways, and we're proposing that. The one we've provided those name becomes one of those access ways. This solution has to be ratified, obviously, with their project managers.
And will that be resolved over the council?
Like I said, in terms of offsetting the requirement to provide another access way, substitute it.
Well, there will be. Next week, there should be some resolution at the regional council with the makeup of their board as well, their council. And then once that's resolved, we'll be sitting down talking to them on topics, and that will be coming into it. And we need that resolved. So that is something that we will certainly be dealing with to ensure that we get, as Simon just said, what we need is access to the beach, as was agreed, and then talk about how we get there, using the resources that are there, and that, of course, will also take into consideration the discussion on that kind of thing. So the intention is to get this resolved once and for all.
Does seem like this.
It does, but until we resume with hopefully sort of bearing in mind too that, you know, Heather's leaving regional council as well, so it's going to be a sort of almost a new sort of set of ears there. So hopefully with that, we have to try to ensure that we can achieve the result that we want. Good luck with this. Are there any further discussion points or questions for Simon, please?
What about the quality of the picture post rain of
You are
blue?
you're very brown beige today.
Heat shooted Ian.
Right, so there's 3 points to this report. So Eileen moved in a seconder so that we can resolve that A, the report be received. The council endorses the proposed Hokitika Rating District Joint Committee Agreement, and that council appoints myself as mayor, Councillor Cassidy and Councillor Phelps as the Western District Council Committee members. It's a matter of whether you want me to break that down or you're happy for that to go through as one. Is everybody happy for that to go through as one movement, or yes? Right, so can I please have a mover and a seconder, please, that we resolve that the report and report 2 and 3 are accepted. Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Nair, thank you very much, Simon, for that. Thank you, everybody, for in favour. Take that as accepted. Thank you very much, everybody. Anne is going to speak on behalf of Heritage Hokitika. I would like to say, Anne, that if you would like this to be moved to next month, when we can rope the guys in as well, then, you know, we're happy to look at that. But you can start the ball rolling anyway with what you want to go to the table.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to start the ball rolling because we'd like to see the projects get underway. There's been a confusion over times for us to present, and the other 2 gentlemen from the Heritage Park may well turn up. Just been try and contact them, but we've got a few days left as well, and we're going to have to scrub up and turn up at 2 o'clock.
Right. It's just to allow the people that are viewing the video to it's already on.
Hey. So, good afternoon. I'm Anne Bradley of Heritage Hokitika. I'm here to support the proposal for the fox moth to be displayed at the Westland Industrial Heritage Park in a new display building. Now, I assume that you've all got a copy of the email with the details. No? Haven't.
So, Anne, sorry, the concept was that Ian would read directly from.
Okay, well, I can do that as well as they can, so maybe that's what they were going to do. I have that in front of me. So the background, so do we all know what the fox moth is? It's a replica plane, and it was constructed by Max Dell with assistance from council staff in the 1994 air show. Celebrate the 60th anniversary of the establishment of Air Travel New Zealand Limited by Captain Bert Mercer, New Zealand's first licensed scheduled services airline. Replica is of the Fox Moth ZK-AD-1I, the first aircraft used by the company. After the air show, it was displayed with interpretation panels and background paintings in a purpose-designed building near the airport terminal. In 2018, Hokitika Airport Limited decided to convert the building to office space for rental car companies that operate out of the airport. Replica was dismantled and removed to private storage. More recently, it, together with the interpretation panels and paintings, relocated to storage and temporary display with wings removed at the Heritage Park. It is occupying valuable space in the Heritage and Learning Centre building, which is dedicated to planned Westland dairying and power generation space. So the future of the fox moth, both Heritage Hokitika and the Westland Industrial Heritage Park have resolved that they want to see the replica back on public display in a building at the airport. Their preference is for display in a building at the Heritage Park, fronting Brian War Lane with clear signage from Airport Drive. Replica, interpretation panels and background paintings will be visible from the street through glass windows. The opportunities provided by display at the Heritage Park. Replica could form central attraction at a Westland Aviation Heritage Display, allowing park visitors to get up close. There are many stories that can be told about aviation in Westland, including first flight in 1923, just 100 years ago, birth of commercial passenger aviation services in New Zealand in 1934, South Western Air Services before road access, doctor, dental nurses, various other public servants, etc. Air shooting and recovery, top dressing aircraft, helicopter operations, including logging, tourist flights, etc. Displays could include large photos, audio-visual simulation of early flights, virtual reality. The interior of the Portsmouth could be replicated to show the very confined passenger space. The sky's the limit. That's not what we're asking you for. Preliminary costing and potential funding. The cost of a suitable building to house the Westland Aviation Display is estimated at $300,000. Cost of museum standard displays can be very high. We estimate, based on our recent success of the big engine audio visual display, at $100,000, which is very attractive. The fact that Hokitika is the birthplace is important. Commercial passenger air services in New Zealand, national and international, especially as the company started by Bert Mercer was later taken over by NAC, became Air New Zealand. This historic significance means the above proposal attract up to 2/3 funding from the Lotteries Environment and Heritage Fund, reducing council or other funders. Heritage Park is already a leading visitor attraction in Hokitika. The aviation display would attract more visitors, help keep them in Westland longer. And that's written by Rob Daniel. He's the Vice Chair of Heritage Hokitika and the tourism Heritage Park. It's away at the moment. So that's the main proposal. Something needs to be, from my point of view, from Heritage Hokitika, something needs to be done about the hot.
It's taken up
a lot of time at our meetings. We're all volunteers. It's our time. It was from the building with the
rental car agency right now.
We were very upset
about that at the time.
We got over that. We can see a new future for it. We don't want to put it back in there.
But we
need
council support because they were the ones that,
or the airport company, or whoever did it, were the ones that originally moved it. So it's up to
the council to approve
and help out with a new home. The previous council. So
it was actually the one
before that. I think a previous one, yes. So I'd like to also like to say part of this proposal. My dad worked for the AC. My first flight on the plane was from Christchurch to Hokitika, and I fly all over the world since. I think we have up in the Fox bases
an aviation display
will attract also on the steering committee for the 2023 proposal. I don't know if you all know about that. That's 100 years of aviation and various other. So we have funding secured, and we
are looking at
the manager for that for this funding. And this could well tie in with the Fox because looking at an aviation.
And we have quite an aviation history to be proud of too. So
yes, we certainly have. So it's more than just the Fox Moth. It's the potential for a huge tourism project. Which the council won't have to fund. They will draw funding. So are there any questions? Also, hopefully the other two gentlemen will turn up.
And
any further questions?
So through your worship, I agree with the should never be removed from the first place. disagree heartily with converting that building into rental car office space. Where previously, the rental cars were built with half a desk in the airport terminal. I didn't need it. I don't need it now. I don't know why it's not on the agenda, to be honest, to convert that. But just the option of that. Is there an option of putting it in the terminal building out of that's been extended? But other than that, then I think as worthy as it is, from my perspective, would be come back when you've got funding. Because I don't see that this is something that Ratepayers should be putting a dollar into. Irrespective of the fact that the lotteries would support this substantially, which is great. But Ratepayers have far better priorities than this. And Hokitik's rich history in aviation is of course recognised in context, as we talked with the racecourse just before, hopefully, in context that history with not at Seaview Airport. And that's recognised by the interpretation on the site. So it is recognised. I do realise that the company will capitalise on it further in the community, but it shouldn't be at the expense of Ratepayers.
Thank you for that, Councillor Midget. I have been at the Heritage Hokitika meetings when these have been discussed. We did discuss the concept of putting it into the airport terminal. And I think overall the opinion is that it must be at ground level so people can actually view it or even open the door and sit in it to understand how they used to ride in these planes. There's been a lot of different options considered in their conversations. I also did convey to Heritage Hokitika that the decision to remove the moth was not made at the council table, as Councillor Neal can support me on that because she was at council at the time along with myself, and that we were very saddened and dissatisfied with the way that was handled at the time because it was done in the stealth of night, and it wasn't the way to respect any form of heritage or history or anything else. Especially not to convey or involve the people concerned with the plane that would have seen it actually removed probably a little more carefully. The fact is that it is there. It does relate to an element of our history here, and I think the fact that they would like to have a larger project at the Heritage Park sits in alignment with the displays that are there currently, because it does cover every aspect of what is our heritage and our history. And I think really the idea of putting the plane back into the rental building is not really there because people are on their way to the terminal and the car coming out, they're gone. So the idea is to put it at the Heritage Park so that you've got the whole story of our history to come around. And I think that's really a good concept. The land's there. So that they have as a group, as a committee, they have actually looked at this in terms of inside out and upside down, looking at where and how. So it's not a decision that them.
Yes, through the chair, we did actually consider, we talked about everything. What could be done? This has been the solution.
Of committees, and this is what the presentation.
And it was also said that groups felt that was
it's a community asset, doesn't belong to us, community asset, and we just felt there was a social obligation on part of the council to try and make it right. Some people would suggest that we get back into the rental car building. We decided that wasn't the best solution because thing is to make it for the public to view, and the space
building
onto Warnmore Drive so that it's available to
And it will link up to the history that's on the south side as well. That's the information that's there. Sorry, yeah.
I'm sure you wish, but I can just seek some clarity. So it's asking, what are you asking for? You're not after cash, you're after.
No, not seeking funding at this stage. It's a community asset.
And because it doesn't really belong to us, but we all feel that something should be done with it. And as I said, the two other gentlemen from here.
Who technically owns it?
Next.
Places Trust.
Oh, yes, Max is here.
And I was the builder of it.
Yes, so in seeking, just really it's bringing it to the table, saying that they want to house it. They're bringing it to its information for us, that they want to seek funding to raise finances to benefit a shelter, a home for it. And at that stage, that's all you're seeking from us, is just that agreements that...
agreement that can be done with it.
Yes, letter of support.
Just your worship, I've been working with Rob Daniel, obviously, quite closely. The recommendation would also be that this is added to as a submission as part of the annual plan process. The challenge that Richard Spark have is they haven't got a design for the structure yet, and so
Is it structure, the plane or the shed?
The shed to house the plane. So the structure, the plane's already had structure. So until that has been completed and costed, they're looking to leverage the better off funding that council has provided to leverage more money from lotteries to do that as a project.
So ratepayers funding has been requested.
So better off funding is not from ratepayers, it's from government.
It comes out of that, doesn't
It's all the buildings in the industrial park are council buildings. So they're all...
They already have funding.
Right. Funding that we might otherwise spend on something else.
No, when the funding's applied for...
Funding, I mean.
Yeah, but when it's applied for, it's applied for specific reasons.
So if we didn't apply for it for this, we could apply for it for something else, right?
They've already got federal funding.
It's already allocated.
It's already been allocated. So when we apply for it, it's you've got to have what you're applying for before you just can't apply for a sum of money and then divvy it up. And this is one of the categories within it.
I'd like to speak, please.
Well, we'll just got to go through the this process, if you don't mind, Max. Just that we'll finish this part of the presentation and then. So that the people
Okay. Okay, apologies for the mix-up. We thought it was 2 o'clock. So I haven't been able to get hold of Bruce, our president. He had a little bit of paperwork to read out, which simply said that we support, obviously, having the fox moth on public display, and the park is in the position of having space and land available if that's what the council wishes to do. We don't have access to finance to the building up or the council. So from the park's perspective, while there may be opportunities for external funding that we could tap into with the council's assistance and possibly even use finances, various sources for seeding finance, for possible lotto applications for expanded Portsmouth Aviation Centre type display. So that's where we're at the moment. So depending on the outcome of the council's decision, with the support of Heritage Hakateka and possibly other community groups, there is potential for having an aviation centre within the park. That's about all I can say. If you've got any questions?
Clarification, and actually read out the full letter, so we've all heard what the content is. Right.
Chair, I think what you do at the Heritage Park is fantastic, and your other display in the first building on your left as you come in, all the motors, etc. It's fantastic. And if they do an aviation display, as good, if not better than
But there's also the presumption, of course, that we've got plenty of volunteers and supporters to assist us. We've got quite a lot of projects on at the moment during various stages of development. So the decision was made, it's not going to happen overnight. There's quite a bit of work involved. So that's where we're at.
Chair, I think it's a great opportunity for the park, and I'd just like to commend Heritage Hokitika and the park for the time that you guys have put into it over the last however many years, because I know it's been a big issue and sucked up a lot of time. So thank you.
Should just mention, and I'm not sure other people have mentioned, there's people like Richard Waugh, who is an aviation enthusiast, who's already contacted us and let us know that if there's any plans for an aviation centre or something similar in the park or the airport, then he would be very keen to assist.
So regarding finance for it, are you needing us to letter of support for applying for more funding, or, I mean, you talked about leveraging what you've got for more. Is letter of support the only thing you require from us?
Just Vera, our co-secretary with myself, we're just checking with Lotto. There's a little bit of confusion in our minds. We're obviously a recipient of this first round of the Bedrock funding, and we're building a maritime centre and a heavy machinery display. There may be a suggestion, and we're still trying to find out, that we may be able to use that 180,000 as possible seeding finance for Lotto application, which could include the cost of an aviation centre, depending on how big it was going to be. So it's in the very early stages, so we're just waiting back from Lotto to find out. Because we don't want to spend the money on the two buildings we've got and find out that we're not eligible for Lotto applications. So yeah, there's a bit of work, background work going on at the moment. Next stage of funding of possible money is, of course, there's the next stages of raw funding, which I'm not quite sure when that's going to happen. Both council, Heritage Hokitika and the park will be putting their hands up for some of that money, which could assist. At the moment, we're still investigating, depending on what people prefer to do. It's pretty obvious it's not going to happen overnight.
So what is the time frame, considering that this wants to be really up and going to be part of the celebrations?
Probably not going to happen because it's 2023, but it's also more partly about the space that it's taking up at the park at the moment. So they have the plans they have that building. Ian would be able about that.
Because we've seen where it is in the building too when we were up there, so.
Yes, we're finishing off the Fire Museum, and we're not going to start the serious until we finish the Fire Museum. So, one job first, we'll move on to the next one. Next round of Lotto for the Heritage and Cultural round in August. So, yeah, that's where we're at. You sound a bit confused, but it isn't really, depending on what you want to do.
Anything else? No, have you got something that you wanted to?
Oh, I was just going to ask if it has to go, if this doesn't happen or progress in a timely fashion, have you got the capacity to keep on storing it? Or does it have to go back into storage off-site?
Is that possible? That's a good question. Foxmont normally has bloody in front of it when we describe it. At the moment, we've got our hands full with the craft centre, dairy centre, and the fire. So, in the short term, it's not an issue. As long as a piece of string. It'd be nice to have a plan, and it appears to some of us that even if something is proposed for the Foxmouth, we're talking possibly next year, this year, something to actually happen. So yeah, it all really depends on the money that's available to possibly get the building up. One of the observations that various people have made is that if we want to have Foxmouth in a display, we would like to develop it so that people actually come in and instead of just driving past and looking through the window as it was, have something a bit more substantial. So that wouldn't happen overnight. Story about the Foxmouth and the people and Dean and all the rest of it that goes with it. We deserve a little bit better than what was previously. We'd be looking at something more substantial. Obviously, that would be developed in stages with a lot of assistance from community and people who got access to all those stories working with the museum and Heritage Hokitika. So it's got a lot of potential.
Next, do you have something you wanted to briefly?
Yes, I'd like to speak. Under the request from John Olsen, Council Chief Executive, I built the Foxmouth. It's the county half, the Canary. The Foxmouth would not survive on a pole which has been mooted by Rob Daniels.
That discussion's gone.
Because it's airborne at 40 miles an hour. It's a fabric aircraft. The only strong part of it is the framework and the engine. Now, you may not be aware that I built the cockpit, the propeller, and the wheels for it. If you get to a situation of inspecting it, pick a bit of wood up and tap the wheels. They look like they're rubber, with a chipboard with rubber glued over the top of them. Now, the building that it was in was dedicated an historic park. It was funded by Lotto. It should never have been cannibalised and turned into a rental car agent. The big sign that was carved, which I carved, which said New Zealand's first registered aircraft, has disappeared. Recently in the paper there's been comment about the flying jacket. The flying jacket belonged to King Edward of England. When he took the throne, he wasn't allowed to fly flying again. The plane went, this wasn't the Foxmouth, it was its mate, AEK. It went back to de Havilland Aircraft Factory. It was put for sale. Bert Mercer, running the South Western Air Services from Hokitika here, first registered aircraft in New Zealand, commercial aircraft in New Zealand, as the ADI. When we built the ADI, Bert Mercer's daughter donated us King Edward's ticket because it was too small for Bert Mercer. Valentine's in Christchurch supplied us with the model, did the mock-up of Bert Mercer's face on it. And that's the model that was in it. Now, the building was dedicated as an historic place. It was funded by Lotto. There is a very, very simple way to solve the problem of the tourists driving past it. It goes back into that building. I've had assistance and an offer from Gavin Malloy. His father used to pilot the plane. Gavin himself would restore it back into that building with no cost to the ratepayers. We do the whole thing retro. Now, the simple way to make it more visible is to change, round out the parking at the airport. You go in on the right and come out on the left. You'll be driving straight towards the display if it was back in its original building. My expertise on the Fox Moth, I used to fly to Haast in it when I was 17. I was on the cattle drive from Haast. I've got all those photos of those, only coloured photographs ever taken on the Haast cattle drive. I intend to put them into a book because if I disappear, the book won't disappear. I've been involved with history all my life. The Heritage Park, I was originally mooted that Heritage Park when I was restoring the Countess, the 1866 lifeboat that's down here on display at the wharf, at the old wharf shed. I needed someone to restore it. I need to put a new stern into it. The Heritage Park at that stage was the borough depot. The dog pound and all was there. I approached them and they allowed me to store the Countess in that building. They suggested we should have a committee to run it. Storage of a collection of farming machinery that John Olsen collected over the years. It was at Canary, and West Roads were being formed and they wanted it out of there. So we called a public meeting to set that up as museum restoration and storage. The first meeting we went to, I was voted out of control. That's the history of Heritage Park.
Thank you, Max, for that.
Now, Evan Malloy, myself, because his father flew it, he's contacted me and we're prepared to resurrect it back into its original building, no cost to the ratepayers, and to make it more visible, the council could quite easily change parking up there so you drove out towards it, not in past it. Thank you.
And background on that. It's always good to know the history behind what we have. And thank you, because Gavin spoke to me also about that offer of putting things back together. So it's part and parcel of, I guess, the big discussion. Where we go with this. Yeah. So with that, I would like to thank Anne Gilby and then Max for his brief on that as well. So thank you everybody for the verbal update regarding that. So what we'll do is we'll propose 3 resolutions. One is the thanks for the verbal update from Western Industrial Heritage Park and the Heritage Ticker be received with thanks. The second part of the resolution will be that we form a letter of support and that be written to the Heritage Park and Heritage Ticker in support of pathway forward for funding, etc. And then the third part of the resolution will be that the Westland Industrial Heritage Park and Heritage Ticker be invited to submit to Council's annual plan process as well, so we can get it logged in and it's then in place moving forward, recognised as a need to do. Are you happy with those? We present them to Council as resolutions on that? Thank you. Right, so that's the resolutions that stand that we're putting forward. Is everybody happy with those? Do you want me to repeat them?
Just explain the funding, what's the, on that resolution?
That we offer a letter of support, that Council writes a letter of support to the Heritage Park and Heritage Ticker in their seeking of funding.
Thank you.
Can we make that a letter of support by the trip?
It's not a wording that we'd be wanting to put into a letter of support. It's, I guess, something that we can note.
I just worry that we write a letter of support today and then down the line end up being asked to fund because we've already given a letter of support.
Well, that's no different to them actually putting in, submitting to the annual plan, because that's where that actually gets discussed.
It'd be a separate decision.
It's a separate decision, and that going into the annual plan brings that discussion to the table. The letter of support has nothing to do with the funding anything further. It's supporting the fact that they apply for funding. Two different things. And, yeah. Okay. So is everybody happy with those resolutions as they stand?
Yes.
Yep. All right. So can I have a move on second, please? Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Burden, thank you very much. Everybody in favour? Great. So let's resolve that we accept the Google report, and thank you very much for that. That we write a letter of support in the all funding application, and that you submit to the annual plan moving forwards with this proposal. Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. It's really appreciated.
Thank you. Apologise for the timing.
Yes.
Yeah, your staff member was, confirm it. Thank you very much. And I'll just go to this email, if I could check it was on our.
That's news. Thanks, Anne. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Okay, Anne, let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Max, for your offer.
Right, so with that, we're at that stage of the meeting now. We'll move into confidential. So can I have somebody please move the second resolve that council moved from public excluded section? Thank you, Councillor Clegg and sorry, Burden, thank you very much. So we're moving in there at 1:13. And we will adjourn for 2 minutes to allow disconnection from Zoom and then the public to remove themselves from the meeting. I'm sorry, Max, at this stage, we're going to have to ask you to leave us.